Breaking news, we've got an update on Jalen Brunson's unfortunate ankle injury and how this might change the NBA playoffs. I'm Trevor Lane. This is the Basketball Bulletin. Make sure you subscribe right here. We're getting close to 20,000 subscribers here on the channel. Hit that subscribe button and help us get there. So here's what's going on. Shams Charania reporting New York Knicks star Jalen Brunson is expected to miss at least 2 weeks with a right ankle sprain. Now that sounds pretty positive, doesn't it? In fact, if you go over here and you look at Ian Begley as well, sounds pretty positive. Everything on Jalen Brunson's ankle injury so far has shown a diagnosis that is much better than was initially feared by New York Knicks people. X-rays on the All-Star came back negative, so there's no broken bone. Specific sprain grade, that is absolutely critical, is unknown, but there's a feeling that diagnosis is significantly better than initially feared last night. If you saw the play in question, Jalen Brunson, his ankle touched the earth. It was difficult to watch, and he had to hobble off the floor. Not good for this Knicks star. However, again, these are positive updates, but something to keep in mind. Do not look at these updates and assume that Jalen Brunson is back in 2 weeks. He's not. I can promise you that. Jalen Brunson is not back in 2 weeks. Not with that injury. It's great to hear that the so far prognosis is better than initially feared. To me, that reads it was feared it was a grade 3 sprain. Again, that's my speculation, but that's what I'm thinking, and it turned out probably to be a grade 2 or ideally, fingers crossed, a grade 1 sprain, and that changes a lot about how long he could potentially be out. But I think right now, what often happens here, a disservice is done to players when stuff like this comes out where he's expected to miss at least 2 weeks. Reality is he's going to get reevaluated in 2 weeks, and then they will provide an update on where Jalen Brunson is at in his return. He's not back in 2 weeks. Look, I hope I'm wrong, but that's not the way these things typically go. He'll get reevaluated in 2 weeks, and then he can make potentially his return. Fingers crossed. I'm just hoping it can happen before the NBA playoffs hit. Now, what does this ultimately mean for the Knicks in the playoffs and everybody else? Because we're at that time of year where we have to look at not just what does this mean for the Knicks, but who are the Knicks playing? Because this could hand some wins to the teams that the Knicks have on their schedule ahead, and that could shift the playoffs. But taking a quick peek here, you look over at our friends at BetUS. Right now, the Knicks, they're plus 2,200 to win an NBA title this year, and that tells you that right now, bettors do not see the Knicks as a true, legitimate title threat. They've got the Boston Celtics leading the way at plus 190. You go look at the Cleveland Cavaliers in the East. Right now, the Celtics are favored to beat the Cavs, plus 600 for the Cavs. The Celtics are believed to survive the Cavs. You look at the Thunder, plus 200. Some of that can be because the Celtics have done it before, right? So they're going to get that kind of benefit of the doubt in these types of odds. But then you look, after that, you've got the Lakers at plus 1,000. They're rising up very quickly in betting odds. The Golden State Warriors are plus 1,400. You go look at the Denver Nuggets, plus 1,400. Despite being the third seed right now in the Eastern Conference, the Knicks are really kind of languishing behind these other teams in true title odds. And I don't blame them. Plus 2,200 for New York. They're just not on the same level as the Cavs and as the Celtics, and especially now without Jalen Brunson. But what does this actually mean for the Knicks in the standings? Fortunately, I don't think it's going to change a whole lot for them in the standings. I think it might change things for some other teams. But for the Knicks, I think they're going to be just fine. You look right now, there is a 4.5 game gap between the Knicks and the Boston Celtics. They're not catching the Celtics. They probably weren't catching the Celtics anyway, even if Brunson stayed healthy, even if they won last night against the Lakers. They're probably not catching the Celtics. I don't think this changes that. Now, the Bucks, 3.5 games back. A lot of people look at stuff like this time of year and say, well, but mathematically, yes, technically, mathematically, the Bucks, who are on a 4-game win streak, the Knicks on a 2-game losing streak, the Bucks could catch the Knicks. I think it's pretty unlikely. It's that's just the way this stuff goes. 3.5 games is a big gap to cover. Now, this is without Jalen Brunson. It's more possible than it was before, but the Knicks aren't going to lose every game from here on out, and the 3.5 game gap is a lot. to make up for the Bucks. So I think the Knicks wind up staying exactly where they're at. I think the gap between the Bucks and the Knicks gets closer, and maybe there's the potential that the Knicks could fall into the 4 seed, and then they would face a round 1 matchup at home against the Pacers, and we could see something like that play out in the 4-5 rather than getting round 1 against the inexperienced Detroit Pistons. But is that big of a difference? No, probably not. The big difference for the Knicks side there would be then New York would have to take on, if they do fall into the 4 seed, they would take on the Cavs in round 2 instead of the Boston Celtics. But again, either way, I don't see the Knicks getting past either one of those teams in round 2. So I honestly don't think this changes all that much for New York. As long as Brunson is back before playoff time, I think they're going to be just fine in round 1. I think they go home in round 2. I don't think that changes based on this injury. Even if they do fall to the 4 seed, I think they beat the Pacers. I think they beat the Pistons as long as Jalen Brunson is back, whether they are the 3 seed or the 4 seed. I don't think it's going to change all that much for their future. Now, it's not just them though, because now certain teams are going to get the Knicks without Jalen Brunson. And so we take a look at them. The Knicks schedule coming up. They get the Clippers tonight. No Jalen Brunson. That should probably hand a win to the Clippers. Now, we do sometimes see a situation where teams missing a star player, their role players all step up. And the Knicks actually have some pretty good numbers with Jalen Brunson out of the game. They actually produce at a fairly high level. It's a small sample size, and I don't think it's sustainable, but maybe they all rally and beat the Clippers tonight. But my guess is this essentially hands a win to the Clippers. Brunson is the engine of this team. The Kings, this could very well hand a win to them. They don't take them on until Monday, but nonetheless, we know Brunson will be out. The Blazers, that could get very, very interesting when we look at the Blazers. Then the Golden State Warriors, again, a team fighting for playoff positioning. Miami, I think they're essentially locked in. They're going to be a play-in team in the East. San Antonio might actually be a little disappointed if they win that game, and they might now. The Hornets will also be disappointed. They're not trying to win games. Same thing with the Wizards. The Dallas Mavericks, now that could interestingly really matter if Brunson is still out. And I honestly, even though we're a few weeks away from that, I would expect that Brunson will probably still be out on the 25th. And that could potentially put a win onto the Mavs and then back-to-back again with the Clippers. So really where this could impact things, it's the Western Conference playoff race. Now, obviously, that game on March 28th, you hope, fingers crossed for the Knicks, that Brunson can be back by then, because that may wind up being the decider on who gets the 3 and who gets the 4 in the Eastern Conference. That game right there may ultimately determine it. So that's certainly something to keep an eye on when looking at this race, that the Bucks are able to beat the Knicks on the 28th. If Jalen Brunson is not back, that would give a full game advantage there to the Bucks and could hoist them up and ahead of the Knicks. Again, that could certainly matter. But then we look at the West. These teams the Knicks are playing. The Warriors, they're trying to hang on. Look at how tight the race is in the West. 6 through 10. You look at this. Half a game separating the Wolves and the Warriors right now for the 6th seed. Well, the Warriors are probably going to get a win handed to them by the Knicks coming up here on their schedule. Same thing with the Clippers. Same thing with the Kings. The Wolves, meanwhile, they have a very easy schedule coming up, but they don't get that potentially gimme win without Jalen Brunson against the Knicks. So this may change how this big matchup right here, this big battle between the Warriors, the Wolves, the Clippers, and the Kings all plays out, the 6 through 9. Now, the Mavs, they're trying to hang on to that 10 seed. I think they probably will. But look, Portland also gets the Knicks. Portland right now 4 games back of the Mavs. I don't think they're going to catch up. I have zero faith that the Suns are going to catch the Mavs. I think the potential is there, but the Suns, they're playing joyless basketball right now. I don't think they're actually going to catch the Mavs. Portland maybe picks up a win against the Knicks that you would not expect them to, but I still think the Mavs hang on to that 10 seed, even with so many players out and missing. So many injuries have hit this Mavs team. It's not impossible for the Suns to catch them. I just think 4 games is too big of a gap for Portland, though. Now with potentially a win against the Knicks that we otherwise would have projected as a loss, maybe that gives them an outside chance of doing it. But I think where this really changes things is these teams, the Warriors, the Clippers, the Kings, these teams now have to take advantage of their matchups with a Jalen Brunson-less Knicks. The teams that do take advantage of that and stack a win onto their record, that may give them an advantage. And remember, there is a big, big difference between being the 7 or 8 seed and the 9 or 10 seed when we talk about the play-in. The 7 or 8 seed are in double elimination territory. They have 2 chances to win 1 game. It's the opposite for the 9 or 10 seed. They have to win 2 games, and if they lose it all, they go home. So this could wind up, this Knicks injury to Jalen Brunson could wind up deciding the fate of the play-in tournament in the Western Conference, or at least the play-in seeding in the West, because so many of these teams face off now against a Jalen Brunson-less Knicks who are on a West Coast swing. So again, overall for the Knicks, good news. Jalen Brunson's injury could be worse. I'm still expecting that he's not back until maybe shortly before the end of the season. I don't think it's likely to change much about the Knicks this season. I think it will keep them essentially in the same position they're in. They're either going to be the 3 or the 4. My guess is the 3, but if they are the 4, again, I don't think it changes the ultimate outcome for this club. But for the Western Conference, this could very well wind up being a big, big difference maker when it comes to who finishes in the play-in, who's in the playoffs proper, and where things go from there. But everybody give us your thoughts in the comments section about the Knicks, Jalen Brunson's injury, where all this is going to go and how things are going to play out. And of course, go check out our latest video. Shocking stuff, I thought, on De'Aaron Fox revealing the truth of why he was really traded from the Sacramento Kings. Go give that a look right now.